Hey everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. So today we're going to be talking about how to change up your programming without refocusing your goals. I have tried a lot of workouts, I have programmed a lot of workouts, and I have a handful of certifications all having to do with programming workouts. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is changing up their programming way too often. The flaw in this logic of changing up your programming to keep your muscles guessing or keep your mind interested is that you're never going to give your body the time to adapt and change and build through the programming that you're already doing. But on the flip side, if you never change things up, then you're only going to progress so far. Now, I've already made a few videos on this channel just about programming in general, but today I want to give you 3 actionable ways that you can switch up your programming to keep yourself interested and progressing without completely changing what your focus is. Now, keep in mind that these are all through the viewpoint of a functional strength coach. So if you're working for something like hypertrophy or athletic conditioning, your progressions are probably going to look a little bit different. But let's dive in. So the first recommendation I have is to add in unilateral movements. I feel like this is shocking to no one because I talk about it all the time. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but let's just jump into a few of the benefits of adding this in and how you can actually add it in. Very simply, unilateral training is single side training, so training one side of the body then the other, and it's a great way to even out muscle imbalances, and it can actually make your bilateral movements stronger. So let's just say that you've been adding reps or sets or weight to your bilateral squat for 8 weeks. That's amazing. And we don't necessarily want to completely eliminate a squat movement pattern when we go into a new phase of programming because we squat every single day, right? We get up and off the floor, we get in and out of bed, we get up and off the toilet. Basically, it's a functional movement pattern, and we do always want to train it in some way, shape, or form. So to progress your programming, I would recommend trying a unilateral variation like a split squat. You'll not only begin to even out any dominance you have side to side, but often when you go back to your bilateral squat, you're going to notice that you can lift even heavier. Other examples of this could include deadlifts. You can do them single leg, kickstand, elevated. If you're doing a chest press, you can go single arm, an overhead press, go single arm, bent over row, go single arm. You can see there's a lot of different options here, so feel free to play around with these basic functional movement patterns while still keeping them in your programming. Next thing you can change up is the angle of your movement. This is what I feel like people forget a lot of the time, and it doesn't have to be drastic or anything crazy looking. But by changing up the angle of your positioning, you can actually target a slightly different part of the muscle. For example, you could take your squat and make it a sumo squat. This is going to target more of the adductors. Now, are you going to load that sumo squat as heavy as your normal squat? No. But again, I'm not approaching any of this from like a max strength or hypertrophy standpoint. I'm approaching this from a functional standpoint. And in a functional world, we still want those adductors to be nice and strong. Another example, you could take a kickstand deadlift and make it a B stance, really lengthening out that hamstring. With bent over rows, you can flip it to an underhand grip and hit more of the bicep. Bicep curls, you can make it a hammer curl and hit more of the brachialis underneath. Again, you can get so creative here without adding in like 7 bands and different ropes and TRX and standing on Bosu balls and bouncing on your head. Like, it doesn't need to be complex to change up your programming. Small but significant changes are still going to help get you stronger. Last recommendation I have is to change up your plane of motion. I feel like I used to talk about planes of motion a lot more on my channel, more when I was doing like those fitness reviews. But anyway, let's talk about it. So to quickly review, we move in 3 planes of motion. Sagittal, which is up and down, front to back, frontal, which is side to side, and then transverse, which is twisting. Now, even though we use all 3 of those planes of motion every single day in our lives, we tend to see that most traditional training is sagittal. So from a functional standpoint, we should be able to move safely in all planes of motion under resistance at all tempos, at all angles without injury. So that's why you want to train that way. So let's do an example. Let's say you've been working on your reverse lunges. Why not change it up during your next phase of programming and work on lateral lunges? If you've been perfecting your push-ups, let's do them laterally side to side and see how much power you can control. If you've been at the cable machine or using a long band to do Pallof presses, maybe we can get a rotational chop or lift in there instead. One more time. We're not going crazy by reinventing all of these new complex exercises. We're simply taking little shifts so that you are more prepared to translate the movement that you're doing in your workouts into daily life. All right, I feel like this is going to be really short and sweet. That's okay. We don't need every video to be 30 minutes. So hopefully this just gave you some ideas, like got the juices flowing of how you can progress and switch up your programming without going from like training for athletic endurance to max strength. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comment box below and I will see you in the next one. time.